That's the voice of Spike Eskin, the host of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Also, many big titles here at CBS Sports Radio. He's our boss. You remember him from the Peanut Butter Challenge, etc., etc.
My first concert was Jackson 5 reunion tour in Philadelphia at JFK Stadium, which is no longer there. Remember their single was Torture, and it was what was the name of the album? They had a whole album, that whole reunion album. Anyways, Jackson 5.
Wow.
I'm not...
Epic.
Yes. Anyway.
And JFK is where Live Aid was.
It is where Live Aid was, yes.
Now that we got to the bottom of that, some more pressing news happening in Philadelphia today. And that is after what can only be described as a gut-wrenching loss in Game 7 to the Celtics. Now, the 76ers...
I can think of some other words,
I know
you'd like.
Listen, if you want to pay the FCC fine, go ahead. Now the 76ers have taken the next step, which is firing Doc Rivers today. Did Doc Rivers deserve to be fired, Spike?
I'm not a coach guy, not in the NBA. I think there's usually 3 or 4 great coaches, 3 or 4 awful coaches, and then everybody else. To me, Doc Rivers is everybody else. He was not the reason they lost. He was rarely the reason that they won. But we seem
That's
to...
not good.
Well, to me, the reason that they win has to be Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, blah, blah, blah. I think what we end up doing with coaches sometimes, I know you asked me a very short question, I'm giving you a very long answer.
That's okay, go.
But what we do sometimes is we point, if we don't like the coach, we say, this didn't happen, that didn't happen, that didn't happen. Why didn't they develop X? Why didn't they develop Y? Under Doc, I'm not a Doc Rivers guy at all. At all. But Joel Embiid did nothing but get better in the 3 years that he coached there. 2 years he finished runner-up for MVP. 1 year he won MVP. He was a scoring leader. James Harden was the assist leader under Doc Rivers. Tyrese Maxey got better every single year that he was there. So there is, if you want to make an argument for Doc Rivers, there are plenty of arguments right there to be made. And even though that game was a disgrace in Game 7, for most of the year, the Boston Celtics were the best team in the NBA, and the Sixers were in position to beat the Boston Celtics, the best team in the NBA. So I don't care that they fired Doc Rivers. I think he probably deserved to get fired. But if they think that changing coaches is going to change the reason that they lost, I think they are sadly mistaken. Just like I didn't think firing Brett Brown and hiring Doc Rivers was going to change what was wrong with Ben Simmons. It's not going to change what's wrong with Joel Embiid. The players are the players. So
wait, what is the reason? Is it one particular player?
I think it has to fall on Joel. It has to fall on Joel.
Not Harden. See, I would have said James Harden.
Well, James Harden was a 0, but James Harden has been a 0 so many times in his career in this situation that I think to myself, if we're going to say that James Harden is the reason that we win or lose, we are signing up for it's like buying a ticket to ride on the Titanic, but you're a person from the future and you know what happens.
Yeah, right. Iceberg. Wait, what?
So but I guess I think about it this way. If I'm Joel Embiid, I want to point to that Game 7 and I want to say I did everything I could. And if Joel Embiid had 37, 13, and 5, and we still had that horrible Harden performance, we could say James Harden was the reason that they didn't win, and Joel Embiid did all that he could. But he didn't. He didn't do all that he could in Game 6, and he didn't do all that he could in Game 7.
Spike Eskin is joining us, the host of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. He's also our boss, but it's the foremost 76ers podcast in this country. So you guys got that going for you, which is great. I'm sorry, the world.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yes.
Why did I limit you in that way? Okay, so the idea about Harden, though.
Yeah.
So there's like some natural kind of connections that people are making that Harden gave a pretty wishy-washy answer about Doc after the game.
Yep.
Said the relationship was just okay. That's not a ringing endorsement. That somehow Daryl Morey, who I can only describe as has an infatuation with James Harden, I don't know what else to call it, that somehow it was a him or me situation and they picked Harden. Can that possibly be true? Why does Morey still believe in Harden?
It could be true. I don't think it's true. I think Doc Rivers would have gotten fired no matter whether James Harden was there or not. I think, though, that it is certainly possible that it is part of the calculus that if Daryl wants to bring James Harden back and he knows that it's not going to work out this way, and they just ran into the same second-round wall that they've run into for the last 2 or 3 years. You got to fire him anyway. What am I doing? Why am I forcing Doc Rivers down his throat?
Right.
If I'm re-signing him, I want him back. I know it's not going to work. You know, he's just making a decision that a manager would make, looking at the things that he wants. So your question is, what is Daryl's infatuation with James Harden? I was a long defender of James Harden until I had to watch him every single game. Mm-hmm. And my answer to you is I just don't know. I have no idea.
Nothing.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
When he looks good, James Harden looks really, really good. But there have just been too many situations in his career where he looks not just not great in a high leverage situation, but legendarily bad.
Yeah.
So,
like forgets how to pass or can't hit the ocean from the beach, everything.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen it all.
And you could go back to the Ben Simmons trade and say, look, that was the best available trade they could make. I think you could make that argument. And for most of the season, that argument held a lot of water.
Right.
If they go back, if Daryl Morey goes back and gives that guy, a 4-year, $200 million contract, I'm not a basketball expert. I just watch a lot of basketball. I would love to be able to watch the games through Daryl's eyes and
right.
know what the difference between what he's seeing and what I'm seeing is. I can't figure that part out. He's a great player, one of the greatest players of all time. He ain't it. Yeah. Not for this, not now,
yeah. Spike, can you help me explain to Maggie why this recent failure does not mean that the process failed? At least the process ended the day Sam Hinkie, the GM, walked out in 2016. And then countless other people screwed up major decisions, and that's why we're here. To me, the process was fine. Picking Markelle Fultz over Jason Tatum had nothing to do with the process.
I said you'd probably have 2 titles if you just took Tatum.
Yeah, I think the way I explain it to people is it's weird to say Sam Hinkie got fired 7 years ago. There have been 4 people in charge of basketball operations since Sam Hinkie was in charge. Brian Colangelo, who got fired because he was trashing his own players on a Twitter burner account.
And then blamed his wife. Talk about loser energy.
Then it was Brett Brown and some minority owner, David Heller, they were picking the players for one summer. Then Elton Brand, who had, God bless him, had never been a general manager before in his whole life.
Yeah.
And
telegraphed your first-round draft pick to the rest of the NBA.
Right. And then Daryl. So it just seems like everyone who did not like what Sam did has been waiting around to say, the process failed,
Can I counter that just on one thing?
Yes.
Because it was only a week and a half ago when Embiid got his MVP trophy.
Yeah.
And I was seeing a lot of, this means the process worked. So when it was Embiid getting the MVP, now the process was a decade, and it didn't matter all those other people took over. But when you lose Game 7 to the Celtics, now it's not the process. Help me understand that.
Carlos, my headphones don't.
Yeah.
They're not. There's something about Maggie's voice is going in and out.
It was so funny because I feel like I said to Perloff, someone in our inner circle, I believe, said they cried when Embiid got the MVP.
I was very happy when he got the MVP.
And I'm happy for you. You guys have spent a lot of time with him, supporting him. I understand why.
A lot of people say that still happened.
Yes.
It happened. He won. And for anyone who said that he did not deserve it, he was the runner-up the previous 2 years.
Oh, definitely.
And
he deserves it.
He definitely deserved it. This is a black mark, though, and he now has the opportunity to do the same thing Giannis did, because they didn't give Giannis to it a third year in a row. It's Giannis an MVP the third year in a row because he was failing in the playoffs, and then he came back and won the championship. The same thing happened to Jokic, and it looks like Jokic is now going to potentially climb that mountain. I know it seems like the entire Embiid story is written. It isn't.
Yep.
And he's 29. He has likely 3-4 years of his prime left. It's still there for him,
Okay,
That's true.
so we have a limited amount of time here. We got 2
Wait, I have
minutes
one
left.
question.
And we have
I
2 more
have to ask
questions.
one
Yeah,
thing.
go ahead.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll answer quick.
Now, Spike, you might not know, is one of the great NBA YouTube scouts of all time. He is a great YouTube scouter. So Victor Wembanyama is the big story today. The draft lottery's tonight.
Yeah.
Can you tell people, when you see a YouTube clip from Europe, it's not the same thing as a YouTube clip from America. So you can see Wembanyama dunking on guys. I think there's a disconnect.
I have stopped in my YouTube scouting picking European players because they all fly around all over the place in the YouTube comments or the YouTube highlights, and then they come over here. Furkan Korkmaz won the dunk contest. He did. It happened.
I've
not
real.
So many times.
Yeah.
Oh, it's real. He put on a Darth Vader mask and won the dunk contest. It's on YouTube.
No, you had a bad trip. That never happened. That never happened.
Look it up.
Yeah, okay.
It did happen.
So you're out on Wembanyama.
He's gonna. Those long, frail guys, they always injure themselves when they get here. I'm not wishing anything bad upon him, but I'd be really nervous about a giant string bean looking guy who's like 17 years old playing in the NBA.
Yeah. Okay. Last one for you. You're obviously diehard Philadelphia through and through.
Oh yeah. What are you guys doing here?
Okay. So the Carson Wentz poster, and this is a poster that Perloff had, Wentz in an Eagles uniform. It's been sitting behind him. It's been bumming everybody out.
Yep.
And I'm sure this got back to you.
Yes.
Okay.
I love the plan, but what's the plan? You got to set an end date to the plan.
Yeah, so...
Do you want me to have to go to the lawyers again?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want it to come to this.
Get this shut down.
But we've been talking really big here. We've floated a few things by you. Lighter fluid, whips and chains, the shredder.
Yep.
You know, maybe like a hacksaw of some kind. It feels like everyone's cool with that. We just got to get to 1,000, and we need the date.
Who is the one that is cool with the lighter fluid?
Okay, I snuck that one in. I snuck that one in. I keep trying to get the lighter fluid in.
I would say this. I'm going to give you more time than I should, but it needs to end by the time the NBA season is over.
Okay.
By the end of the NBA Finals, which is a moving target.
Yeah, I just know a lot of people have complained about the poster, and like we're trying to do something about it. We're trying to get rid of it in a big, epic way.
I want you to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I don't want Carson Wentz staring at me.
I know. It's got to go. All right, YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio. Hit subscribe.
Yeah.
Do it for Spike.
And then check out this Furkan as Darth Vader video. It's better than advertised.
I told you it was real.
It's amazing.